with Shop Talks. Shop Talks is a production of the Ink Kitchen. You can check out our YouTube channel. We have online information. It's all free, sponsor-based. You don't have to pay for it yourselves. And we have sponsors for these Shop Talks here. Emerald, who puts this show on, Hirsch, Stalls, and Los Angeles Apparel. They all make this possible. I'm Rick Roth. I have a shop Mirror Image besides this that does screen printing and every other kind of decoration imaginable. And I'm with my good friend Michelle Moxley here. She's working on a series called Fahrenheit AI, and that's appearing on the Ink Kitchen as well. It's really in-depth look at artificial intelligence, so check that series out. Fruit of the Loom behind us here is one of the main sponsors for that. So with no further ado, Michelle, do your thing.
Hi. So to start off, I'm a little bit far away from there, and I have a mouse that flips through the slides, and I'm having a little bit of trouble getting them to work, so you'll have to bear with me. If artificial intelligence was involved in this, it would tell me to move closer, but I have a camera. So what is artificial intelligence? Basically, this is just an introduction, if you aren't using it, what it's about and where you could get started. Artificial intelligence mimics the human mind. It uses deep learning and large language models to create neural networks between information so that it can basically regurgitate the information back to you in a understandable and in a way you can process. And it's exploding, and you've probably seen it on a lot of your apps and in your phone and lots of different places. We're going to start with some of the easier places to use AI and what it's all about. There's 3 different types of artificial intelligence. There's the artificial intelligence that will assist us, which is mostly what Fahrenheit focuses on, but we do cover all 3. There's artificial intelligence that will replace us, and there's artificial intelligence that will do things that human beings wouldn't be able to do without it. And hopefully that will be good things like affecting climate change or space exploration or medical improvements, and not negative things, but it can include both. So one place to get started is marketing. The image on the left was created by one of the services where you can send in maybe 20 or 30 images and it will generate an AI headshot of you. It's a generic method and it gives back generic images. So I sent in 20 images, I paid $15, I got 20 images back, one of them sort of looked like me. If you get into using actual AI image generators, you can be a lot more specific and you can get a lot better results than like a generic service, but it takes training. On the right is a post that was created by a tool called Replit, and it was to advertise one of the episodes, Fahrenheit AI episode 3. It used emojis. It showed how many likes there were, how many views there were. It created a call to action. It hashtagged the episode. So you can see how it can actually act as a social media generator. It's really good at social media. It's based in large language, and it's regurgitative, so it's basically using content creation to create content creation. If you put like scientific papers in it, it could give you back research data, but mostly what it's going to be built off is what's on the internet, so content, and that means it's really good at content creation. So the easiest place to get started, in my opinion, is in marketing and content creation, whether that is imagery or text, things like this. You can also set it up so that it does automatic posting for you and you don't actually have to interact with it as much, but that gets a little bit more advanced. This was created by Replit, but I posted it. So this one is a generic video to blog generator. So you take a YouTube video and you plug it into this site and it will generate a written blog. The idea being that people learn with different methods. Some use video and some watch YouTube and some listen to podcasts and some read text. So this would take one of the formats and completely generate another format immediately so that you wouldn't have to generate both. So it's a huge time saver. It does a really good job. It's accurate, it's summarizing, it's descriptive, it gives you all the different sections, it creates the link, and it's free. So that's a really easy place to get started. Now, an advanced place that we've gone to in the most recent episode, and if you come back tomorrow when we do advanced AI, this is a blog generator that is built by me. So this is an agent that I built. It's not generic, but I do the exact same thing. The difference being this has all of the transcript of Fahrenheit AI episodes 1 through 12, and it has my writing style as a reference, and it has a description of what it is. Like, I generated a personality for this agent as a marketing expert, and it creates blogs that are written in the style of Michelle. So if you read it, you wouldn't know if I wrote it or if an AI wrote it. In fact, I got it good enough that I can't tell. So I can integrate things that I've written with things that it's written, and then I can read back through and be like, did I write that part? It's really gotten tailored to me, and then I can keep adding to it. Now, I have to be careful if I add things to it that it generated. I'm starting to make it circular, where it will start to sound like itself.
I don't know, I'm just thinking that pretty soon I don't have to hire you. I just get my hands on that and a hologram, and I'm good.
So here's the cool thing about this. It's called Mind Studio, and I can actually charge him to hire me to
write things you're not going to write.
Yeah, and I can
Like Spy versus Spy magazine or something. I love it.
Inception of, yeah. So, and this AI, I can actually like build him. I can make a copy and then pull out my data set and make it generic, and then you could purchase it and put in your data set and make a blog generator that writes like you. That's what's cool about some of these apps. So I was using basically called AutoGen and like Microsoft previously, where it was all coding, which we'll talk about tomorrow. But now it's becoming UI based, so it's a little more interactive and anybody could do it. So that's a little bit advanced, not a great place to get started, but that one is just videotoblog.com. You just put in a YouTube channel and it gives you a blog post. And you don't like hate them.
You know, so it's a little aside, but so there's a podcasting thing I looked at, and it generated like you do the interview in video, and then it has the transcript. You can edit the transcript, and it edits the video.
Yeah, I haven't. I'm using Descript, which edits the sound with the transcript, but now they have the video editing ones. I gotta start playing with that, because soon I won't have to make the videos either. Okay, so these are my marketing tools. Replit created the post that I had to post. Refusion is one where you actually type words and it makes up songs based on what you type, and you can pick the tone of the song and the style, so it's a good marketing tool for some sound. Kyber is animation. I have an episode about animation. It's really simple animation, but you can make your logo dance and move and things like that. GPT-4 is the large language model that I used for these posts. But as Fahrenheit goes on, we explore other large language models. And then Video to Blog, like I said, is free up to a point, and then you pay if you wanted to get extra services. And then I used Mind Studio, which was the newest one that's not up here. So the next really good place to get started is in art. So if you think of large language models as like this massive database that it's analyzing and giving you back, regurgitating back information, the art generators are doing the same thing. They're scanning the internet and scanning images to regurgitate back generated images, and they all behave differently. All the large language models, all of the art generators, they all behave differently, and you kind of have to get to know them to know what their, I want to say personality, but like what they're capable of, what they're good at, and what they're not so good at. One of the easiest places to get started if you really want to understand is illusions. So these are two illusions that were created in Midjourney. On the left is my dog Gus. He was a Tibetan Terrier, and I always said he was an evil mastermind. So I generated an image of a black and white Tibetan Terrier, and then I take the image and I generate an evil mastermind, and it uses the first image as a reference to generate the second image. The reason this is an effective way to learn is because it's somewhat challenging, and it also teaches you how to prompt efficiently. generally people put too much, in my opinion, they put too much information in prompts, and it gives it so many different directions. And by doing a method like this, you kind of narrow it down to really specific things. So if you want to learn how to do one color or simple things for screen printing, this will force your hand kind of like, I don't want it to be that many colors. I got to use less words. I got to be more descriptive. The one on the right is my dog Pearl. She's a golden doodle, and she's a princess. So we started with a black and white image of a golden doodle, and then you feed it back into the generator and you call it a princess, and you get an illusion. This is something that would be outside of like a human ability to draw easily and make multiple versions quickly. So this is where you're starting to cross over into AI doing things that humans can't do. So the next place, episode 3, was all about text. So there's a couple different things that are really hard for AI generators. One is hands. If you think about, and I saved an image for you. Hands. If you think about hands in photographs, like they're always moving around, they're always hidden behind things, there's always different depictions of hands. So from an AI generator's perspective, it's hard to narrow down exactly what hands are doing, and that's why you get this mess of fingers and hands.
It's the big tell, actually. So that rendering of that jerk that's moving the A's to Las Vegas, they had a rendering, and it was supposedly, spent months working on it, but it looked like it was done in 5 minutes, and one of the tells was the hands on the people in the crowd when you went in would look like that.
Yeah, and as we move into the election season, knowing what the tells are really important. Hands is a big one. The other one is if you see things that look familiar, but as you zoom in, they don't have any specific information, like books or notepads or things that should have something on them, but they don't. That's a big tell. But a lot of that is improving very quickly, so it gets very confusing. So back to text. So this is called ideogram, and ideogram, I did an episode recently that was supposed to be like a text wars between Midjourney and ideogram because they're both generating text now. Unfortunately, I couldn't even really do the war because ideogram won just straight out of the gate. One of the ways you can test text is using words that are difficult to spell. So I did hammerhead print. So the word hammerhead has double M's, which is hard because it wants to mush it together like fingers. It has a hammer, which is an object, a head, which is, a human head. It has hammerhead, which is a shark, but then it thinks of sharks. So it's just very confusing in an AI space. Ideogram could spell hammerhead on the first try. It gave me text that was able to be isolated. Midjourney last week could not. It can still do words, but some of the more challenging words, it gets kind of stuck. This example, the Midnight Buzz, was a band that wanted a neon sign for the text, so I did that in ideogram, and I just put in neon sign, the Midnight Buzz. And then the background is a caricature of each band member as a bee, and they were generated in Midjourney individually. I do recommend, if you get into art, to doing things that are complex like this as individual generations, because when you try to do all of them together, you'll get really big distortions. The other thing that is to note about like the hammerhead difference between ideogram and Midjourney is like the word shark generally relates to a tiger shark to an AI generator. It's not going to know what a hammerhead shark is. And this also plays into the fact that they are racist and sexist, and they're built off of internet data. So if you put in CEO, you will get back a white man with a tie on. And if you put in anything, it depends on the words that you use, but you can see examples of this. Some of the generators have tried to fix this. Gemini recently tried to, and then it generated a bunch of Nazi war soldiers in random skin tones, which was probably more offensive than if they hadn't tried to fix it. So they're not perfect.
I don't know what's more offensive.
I don't know.
It's down on the
It's
way down the offensive meter, way up, whatever.
So the other place, this is with AI, the beta. Well, it's in Adobe Illustrator now, but it's a retype tool. So this is the closest to stealing that I felt like I actually did. I took Muddy Waters blue.
Well, you were stealing for good.
Yeah, it was for charity. I have no idea. There's a lot of blurry lines in this. There's going to be an ethics episode that we go through soon, too. I took a Muddy Waters Blues album, and I took the AI retype tool in Illustrator and identified the font, and then it will use AI to recreate the font and make it editable. In making it editable, it will rebuild the raster image behind it without the font. So you can actually like affect images and pull fonts out, make them editable, be able to put them back in. So it was the Muddy Waters Blues album. It matched the font, it matched the shape, and then I replaced the imaging with Shelton Powell Blues. And this was for DTF. So it kind of creates a solid DTF with the broken in between.
And we don't have a picture, but the shirts came out great.
So one of the challenges in the AI art generative space is control. And a lot of it feels like I'm just prompting this thing and it's generating this art, and after a while the art starts to look the same, and I don't have control that I used to have as an artist. There are tools that give you control. So right now I use Midjourney. I pay $10 a month for my subscription. It goes up much higher than that, and you get a lot more generations. If I go over $10, I will just pay per use unless I exceed the next subscription level. Ideogram is free. That one does the text. If you get multiple accounts, you can just keep generating. This is from Stable Diffusion. Stable Diffusion is basically free. It's not friendly with Macs, so I use a GPU cloud, which costs me about $1 an hour. So if I planned out what I want to do, it's negligible. The GPU cloud is for the Mac. If you program it into a PC, it would be free, but you have to know coding a little bit. The GPU cloud is really simple. You just click on it and it pops it up. So inside of Stable Diffusion, there's control, and you can see across the top, there's a wireframe in the middle of those two images. So the image on the left was the prompting image, and then the wireframe is what it saw from that form, and then the image on the right is what you wanted, an astronaut. So it gave you an astronaut in the form of the image on the left, and all of a sudden you have some control. You have control of the shape of what it generated. Across the bottom is a contour map of the image on the left, and then it was like an alien, so it created an alien in the form of the image on the left. Now that isn't a very practical example, but here's one. Oops. So the image on the left, the background image was generated by AI, I think probably Midjourney, maybe Stable Diffusion. The tree in the center, the black tree, is their original logo. The text was the retype tool and then just generated in Illustrator. On the right, the tree is finished and it was generated in Stable Diffusion. So it's using something called ControlNet, where I fed in the original logo silhouette and I generated an illustration of a realistic tree and formed it so that it would match. So what they would have is a tree in a field that looked like their logo, and it had, and I used their mission statement as the prompt to generate the background, and that was the full image on the right as it was finished. And you can see now I have control. Challenge was they hated it. They said it looked AI generated.
Also, they fed you the wrong information.
Yeah, their mission statement was wrong, so the apples were wrong, and yeah, so there was just a lot wrong with it. But I was really proud of it. I was like, that was a lot of work, and I figured out how to control this thing and make it do what I wanted it to do, and then I was like, here you go, and they're like, that looks like AI, and I was like, oh.
No, and again, like to illustrate in that form, the tree would have taken forever.
Well, and that would have been really like their only choice, but when I came to them with this and I had done all that, and they were like, yeah, I don't like that at all. I was like, all right, whatever, and I just went to the next thing. It kind of takes some of the pain away of being an artist and spending a lot of time on something that doesn't work. So I actually added what did work, because I went back, and this was their final. So this was generated in Midjourney. The text was just traditional. I don't even know what to call it because I want to say AI, but I mean Illustrator. The tree itself was the silhouette of the old tree, and I had to do that in Illustrator. But I sent her a tuner. out of Midjourney. And a tuner doesn't require you to have a Midjourney account. What you do inside of Midjourney is you tell it that you want to tune a style, and then it generates these choices, and you can send the choices to your customer. The customer goes through and chooses what they like, and then it gives back a code, and that code targets their style. And by doing that, we were able to narrow down basically what was a little bit generic and they weren't very descriptive about, and come up with this. In the end, I took what was generated, I redrew it, I added the vegetables to it, but I used it as a tool to get to their end of story, which is a really good way to get into AI because it's not taking over, it's not generic, it doesn't look like something else, but it's assisting you, and that's what it should be doing. So this is another way that you can have more control. This one is called Krita, Krita, but I currently am also using, or I switched to Krea, Krea, because Krea is online, and Krita you have to download, so it was a little bit harder to get into, but they do the same thing. So I drew the flower on the left with my mouse pad and my middle finger, and it was sloppy, but as I was doing that, the AI was generating on the right, and you can see it adds refinement, it adds style, but it also tries to maintain the stylization that you intended. And you also have tools where you can scale up how much it's influencing or scale down so it stays closer to your style. And this can let you edit images. So if you've done something in the past but you want to change part of it, you can upload the image and edit images. It lets you generate things faster. It helps integrate a customer. A customer could use this. You can do this in front of a customer. It makes the art aspect of it stay alive a bit more. So these are my generative AI art tools that we've been discussing. There's Photoshop Beta, which a lot of the tools have been moved into Photoshop now, so you don't necessarily have to use the beta if that makes you nervous, because they've gotten to the point where they've integrated it. Beta can be a little bit annoying because they update it so much that it sometimes just crashes. Ideogram is really good at text. Midjourney is really good, but it is subscription based. Stable Diffusion, you have to have a PC or you have to pay for a cloud. Krita and Krea are those ones where you can draw. Krea is online and it's free. Krea is based in Stable Diffusion, so it's easier to use than Stable Diffusion. It doesn't have all of the bells and whistles, but it's more graphic in its interface, so it's more fun. The retype tool in Illustrator is great. And then DALL-E is the one that's associated with ChatGPT. So you've got the ability to generate images and have a conversation, and it can see, so you can feed images into it and it will give back prompts for other apps if you want. So I encourage you to follow along on Fahrenheit because we explore this space, but tomorrow we're going to get into more advanced AI agents and how to automate and add them into manufacturing. So come back and you can check that out. And here, oh wait, so this is Billy Strings, and this was something that got in the news at the New Year. These shirts were generated for the New Year's show, and then the artist was accused of using AI. And Billy Strings is a musician, and he had to defend it, and he went trying to find out if they were using AI. The artist said they did not use AI, but they did not prove it with sketches. They said they would, but they didn't. So I don't know how many of you are artists, but if you're thinking in your head, like, do I keep my sketches? Like, what kind of sketches? This is where we are today. So you could generate something that looks very popular and mainstream and be accused of using AI. You could be using AI and trying to defend it as if you actually drew it. It's all getting very gray and very shady.
And then eventually AI produces those crappy sketches to prove falsely that there was.
The sketches for you, but just keep in mind, like, Billy Strings has promised not to use AI moving forward, so it could affect your ordering if you're not transparent about it. And a lot of the legislation that is being passed is saying that you have to be transparent about it. I think on Friday, YouTube announced, like, creators need to say whether or not they have AI generated imagery in their posts. Oops. And there's the QR for Fahrenheit if you want to follow along. We're on episode 13 now. We've started doing AI agents, and we're going to be doing like big data, small data, more of that, things like blogs and processing.
What does it cost to subscribe to those?
It's free. All the projects that we create are free, and watching it and accessing it is free. So
And the
please join.
Yeah, series is sponsored by Fruit of the Loom, actually.
Fruit of the Loom, yeah.
And M&R and Stalls.
And stalls.
Progressive companies, one and all. All right. Any questions?
Well, I had one question. I'll ask a question, and then you guys go. Last time we did this about how to generate prompts, how to prompt for screen printing, or one color, two color. Again, keeping it simple, using the word screen print, not using the word t-shirt, because it will put a t-shirt into the image. Sometimes you can say artwork for a t-shirt, but then sometimes you get a t-shirt in the generation. Lino cut, linotype, one color, two color, simple, those kinds of words, force it. And then you can create a tuner of those words so everything you generate is one and two colors. That's in Midjourney.
Questions?
Thank you. How do you ensure that as you're generating this, you're not creating any copyright, trademark infringements, or even plagiarism? How do you know for sure that you're not crossing those bounds?
So we're going to do an ethics episode and a privacy episode coming up. Trying to follow data, especially in the big data clouds, to see, like, if I create my own agent, where does my data go? And does somebody else actually have, like, a vector point that connects to it?
Right, that's what I was thinking.
In AI, like, it's a huge debated topic right now because of who gives up the rights to their art. And think about it, like, they're regurgitative. Like, this isn't creating art. It's ripping off and regurgitating art. But it can inspire. So from my perspective, like, when you're getting into it, use it for inspiration because it'll inspire you quickly. But in terms of what you're comfortable with selling, I would say that's up to you as an individual. The transparency with your customer and then keeping track of legislation is really important. And that's why I encourage you to follow along on Fahrenheit, because that's what we're trying to do. Explore the space so that you don't get into a place where you're having issue like that. Show you what's out there, but then also actively discussing what the conflict is. And I know that's not a great answer, but that's really the state of things right now.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I have an undergrad degree in graphic design, but I became an elementary teacher. Fast forward 10 years later, I'm now a graphic design teacher, but I'm so behind. I don't even know where to start with my students. So where can I start so I can bring my students up to the AI generation?
So I would recommend watching them in order because they will kind of guide you. Marshall is right over here, and he's really good with Midjourney, and he has classes on Midjourney, so if you want to be Midjourney focused. And then some of the other ones, they've been shifting so much in the course of the last year that it's kind of like waiting for the dust to settle to say, okay, this is a leader, this is a leader, this is a leader. I really like Stable Diffusion, Ideogram, and Midjourney. In terms of ease of use, Ideogram is easiest, then Midjourney, then Stable Diffusion. And as you increase, you get more advanced capability. So I would just suggest getting started in one of the spaces and playing around. You can't really make a mistake. And then encouraging your students to do that, but also keeping in mind the ethics of it. Like, as you're training these students coming up, understanding what copyright is and like where this information is coming from. And we will continue to talk about that in the episodes. But art is definitely the best place to get started. It's easy. And you just type words and stuff comes out. Yeah.
Is that similar to ArtBreeder? I did introduce students to ArtBreeder, but I just found out about it.
ArtBreeder?
Yes.
I've never heard of it.
Okay.
I want to look it up. Is it an AI?
It is.
Yeah. Has anybody else used it?
No.
I haven't used it, but I'll check it out.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot. That's one of the issues with Fahrenheit is I'm trying to explore as many as I can to show them to the industry, but I'm also trying to stay targeted so that we can learn and grow and get more advanced. So I will check that out. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
Other questions? All right, how about a hand from the show?
Thanks, guys. Come back tomorrow if you want to get more in depth.
And thanks to our sponsors, you can see on the sides here. And check out our YouTube channel where there's over 200 videos like this. Oh, my wife's going like this. Happy hour at 4 o'clock right here, free beer. How's that? All right, thanks for coming.